What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Athletic Hockey Show, the Wednesday Roundtable edition. I am Rob Pizzo from CBC Sports, joined as always by Jesse Granger in Vegas, Mike Russo in Minnesota. How are you, boys? We're 10 days away from the trade deadline, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of itching for this thing to actually get to March 3rd because we're talking so much about it. How are you?
Well, I'm just hoping that we get to March 3rd and that the only one not still on the board is like Lafferty or somebody. It just doesn't feel like everybody is now really trying to get a head start on March 3rd. And man, it could be a boring trade deadline if guys like Meier and all those guys are off the board by then.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. It does seem a little earlier, like things are happening a little earlier than usual.
I don't know. I'd say the last 3 to 5 years, maybe even a little more, we're seeing, GMs we talked about with Jim Nill last week. They don't want to wait till that last minute. The deal's not necessarily going to get sweeter. And as we saw with the big trade that we're going to discuss in just a few minutes this week, sometimes it's just the logistics and the math that has to go into making a trade happen. You can't wait till 2:55 Eastern on March 3rd. So we're seeing GMs do what they do. We're going to go through a lot of that. And, we talk a lot about GMs and scouts and everyone else and how busy they are at this time of year. Agents are very busy too. And we're going to speak to one of them in segment number 2. Ben Hankinson is going to come on, and I just want to dive into what his next, 10 days are going to be like and what is really his job description, because agents do a lot. They wear a lot of hats. So we're going to speak to Ben in the second half of the show. We'll talk about the guys still left on the list first, guys, and we'll get to the Ryan O'Reilly deal in a bit. But Jesse, you mentioned Timo Meier. Some new developments over the last week since we last spoke. Our own Pierre Lebrun reporting. Now that the Blues have a bunch of picks because of that deal, they've reached out to the Sharks. Some other teams in the mix, the Jets, the Devils, the Hurricanes, and the Golden Knights. And that's why I want to start with you. What have you been hearing there? Anything that would lead you to believe that Timo Meier might be coming to your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I think Meier would be a great fit for Vegas in terms of just the player style. He does what the Golden Knights need the most, and that is getting to the front of the net, getting loose pucks, getting deflection screens. It's something that the Golden Knights have struggled with for years. Pete DeBoer for years would say, we've got to get to the front of the net. He's pleading for his players to do it. Now you get a different coach, Bruce Cassidy. You say, okay, maybe a system will change it. Bruce Cassidy saying the exact same things. Whenever the Golden Knights aren't winning, that's usually the issue. So I think Timo Meier would solve that. The problem is the Golden Knights are already like $20 million over the salary cap. I mean, we're talking about, I know these GMs do a lot of math wizardry, but I just don't see how it can possibly work. I mean, yes, they did just put Mark Stone on LTIR, so that does open up $9.5 million, which means Timo Meier fits right now if they were to trade for him. But Mark Stone's coming back eventually. And Robin Lehner, who hasn't played this season and his salary hasn't counted, that $5 million is going to count. So you're going to go into the offseason, and I don't think the Golden Knights would want to trade for Meier as an RFA and then deal him like at the end of the season. I don't see this as a playoff rental. So unless there's significant salary going back the other way, I just don't see how it could possibly work. I mean, I probably shouldn't say that with this team because they find ways to, every time the Golden Knights make a move, my entire Twitter, every reply is, does the salary cap not apply to this team? Did I miss the part in the rules where, so maybe they can make it work. But like I said, I think on the ice, great fit, Timo Meier. I don't know if there's a team that Timo Meier is a bad fit on. He's a great player and he's one of the younger guys on the market.
26.
I just don't, the math just, I'm not good enough at math to figure that one out.
Yeah, and to your point, this is Mike Greer's first huge trade, and I don't know if he's going to trade him inside the division unless he's getting an absolute premium. And I don't know how they can give up a premium if they can't re-sign him. So that's why when they put Mark Stone on LTI the other day, the first name that popped in my head was Patrick Kane. I don't know how you feel about that, Jesse, because I don't know if Kane helps you from the get to the net standpoint, but he certainly helps you from being a puck wizard and superstar. And he's showing that more and more in the last week that he is still the same Patrick Kane. But to me, it's more of a rental type deal. The cost is not prohibitive. Everything we're hearing is that, as much as I'm sure Chicago is going to want a first round pick, might even get him for a second and a prospect, because Patrick Kane, this is not going to be a bidding war with 7 teams. Patrick Kane, like Pat Brisson, is probably going to go to Chicago with a list of like 1. And then if that 1 doesn't work, then maybe it's going to be up to Patrick Kane to pick another team. It's not going to be like 7 teams going after him. As much as 7 teams might want him.
We make a decision already. Either stay or go, but make a damn decision.
Doesn't this feel an awful lot like Claude Giroux last year with Pat Brisson too? And if you remember, Claude Giroux, when he essentially gave Philadelphia a list of 1, really 2, because Colorado was sort of in there, but it was really 1. It really made it very difficult and hamstrung, Chuck Fletcher from maybe getting full market value on what a Claude Giroux really worked. And I think it's going to be the same thing here is as the longer this goes, it becomes to a point where a lot of pressure is going to be on Chicago, because if Kane eventually says, yeah, I'll go, but it's got to be this team, now, that team's got all the leverage in the world.
So most of the players are still where they were when we last spoke. Chychrun, of course, the longest player ever on a trade block. Patrick Kane is there. But one name that popped up, Elliot Friedman reporting this, and I remember, do you ever hear a report or see something and you go, well, I must have heard that wrong? Teams are calling Vancouver on JT Miller. And I remember thinking, this is the same JT Miller who just signed a massive extension in September that's going to kick in after this season. Am I the only one who thinks maybe because it's Vancouver, we just can't be surprised anymore after what we've seen all year? But JT Miller is now, people are kicking the tires on him. Russo, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's sort of what I said. And every time I say anything about Vancouver, it becomes wildfire there and becomes like the lead of blogs. And I get like 16 radio stations calling me. But it's like I said on a podcast a month ago, I bet you they have buyer's remorse on that contract. Look, JT Miller is a lightning bolt there. And if you really want to build your team around Elias Pettersson, which I bet they do, they might have jumped the gun on that contract. So it wouldn't shock me at all that maybe they're starting to throw little hints out there to other teams that like, hey, we would consider moving him. I just don't know now at that contract if he's movable. I mean, we've seen stranger things happen. I mean, I guess if you pulled a Max Pacioretty and traded him for futures, I guess you can move him maybe if somebody could take that type of contract. But I just, it doesn't shock me. And the other thing I'll say is, Elliot Friedman doesn't throw stuff out there for shits and giggles. I mean, he is, when he tweets or writes or reports something, you could pretty much say that it's 100% true. So I don't doubt for 1 second the validity of the report.
Yeah, I don't know if this is teams initiating it to Vancouver saying, hey, maybe we think they might have buyer's remorse on this. Let's see what they think. Or if this is Vancouver reaching out to teams. But I'll say this. If it's Vancouver reaching out to teams, if I'm a GM and a team just signed a guy to this massive contract and then is asking me if I want to trade for him before that contract even, I don't even need to look at the player. Absolutely not. I want nothing to do with this player. I don't even need to know what his name is. I don't need to know his stats. If you just signed a player to a massive deal and then you're looking to trade him before the deal kicks in, something is wrong there. I don't want that player.
Yeah. And according to Friedge, it is a matter of teams are calling, and he kind of said to, not necessarily something is going to happen, but that name keeps getting brought up. And like Russo said, if Friedge is saying it, if Friedge told me the blue line was orange, I'd believe him. But I just thought that was just a weird twist to this NHL trade deadline. One more thing before we get to O'Reilly. We talked about this last week. Chychrun and Gavrikov sitting out with the new trade-related reasons thing and haven't played in more than a week. Now we're seeing Luke Schenn in Vancouver, Travis Sanheim in Philadelphia, joining them in the press box. Trade-related reasons. It used to be, guys, if someone is suddenly in the press box, a trade is going to happen that night, even within the next, couple hours. That's not the case here. Yeah, and I mean, maybe we'll talk to Ben about this in the second half, but I don't know how much I like this trend. I get it. It's like you don't want to put the red glass of wine on a white carpet, but now we got players sitting out for weeks on end.
The length of it is ridiculous. I like you say you don't like. I absolutely hate it. I think it's ridiculous. I think also if you're a team trading for one of these guys, do you want a guy that's been sitting out for 3 weeks?
100%.
Not only from a player like a performance standpoint, how good is this guy going to be? He's going to have to get back. It's almost like he's back in training camp. But also, are we making them more injury prone because they haven't played in 3 weeks and suddenly we're going to throw them into NHL action and the guy's got to perform on this new team that just traded all these picks for him? I just don't like any of it. I totally understand why the GM would do it. They don't give a crap how he performs on the next team. They want to get their return for him. But I don't like it. And I don't know if there's a way you can, like, the NHL can, like, this offseason, the GM meeting say, no more of that. Like, they can just make up an injury. It's like the NBA that, well, he's got something wrong with his ankle. He's not playing tonight, when we all know that that's not actually why they're sitting out. I don't know if there's anything they can do, but I hate it.
Yeah, I agree with you on, the GM's meetings. I'll be down there March 12th to the 15th, and I bet you this will be a topic there. But as you just said, Jesse, I don't know how the league could legislate against this. I mean, you have the right to sit down any player that's you're paying, and so technically you're allowed. So I don't know the NHLPA if they can get involved here and what could be done about this situation. But this is long. I mean, it used to be immediately if you're pulled from the lineup, you know that trade's happening pretty imminently. That's and we'll talk to Ben Hankinson about Luke Schenn and whether or not he thinks that's a sign here that maybe Luke is going to be traded any day, or if this is another one of those protecting the assets until March 3rd. We had Jeff Chychrun on the podcast around the All-Star game. And, Jacob's dad, and, when he was first pulled for the lineup a couple weeks ago now, I texted Jeff, and Jeff actually flew to Nashville and hung out with his son for a couple days in Nashville just to kind of keep his mind off of it. The one thing that I think with Jacob Chychrun that might be a little different than, say, a Gavrikov is that I do think that Jacob Chychrun, who has had injuries in the past, did suffer a little tweak and was, a little hampered. So even though they pulled him for trade-related reasons, I think there was a scare there from both sides because Jacob Chychrun does want to get traded to like, hey, let's pull back here and make sure he's okay. Because I thought it was also weird that he wasn't practicing with the team. That seemed atypical in these type of situations. At least Gavrikov's been practicing with the Blue Jackets, traveling with them and things like that. Chychrun was not practicing, then skating on his own. Now he's back at practice, which I think lends some validity to the belief that maybe he had a little tweak and that's one reason why they pulled him from the lineup. But if they don't move him by March 3rd, that's going to be super awkward if all of a sudden, you pulled him out for trade-related reasons for a month and then you couldn't trade him.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, I hate to sound like, the angry mob, but some kid whose dad got him tickets, to see his favorite player, you could afford to go to one game a year and he's sitting up because of trade-related reasons. And also, let's not forget, at this time of the year, it's always the UFAs that are getting moved. If they're on the cusp of some sort of season milestone that would get them more money on that extension wherever they end up going, or if they as a free agent, and they finish with 49 goals, they finish with 99 points. I don't think the NHLPA is going to like that either. So we'll see if that's a trend. I'm with you guys. I'm not a fan of it.